Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Reboot. I am honored to be joined by my one and only, the lovely Jordan Bell, the man, the myth, the legend, but really right now my competition, because as we know here on the Reboot, we are going to be pitching a reboot of one of our favorite, and I would argue one of the best movies maybe made in the last certainly 20 or 30 years. But before we dive into that and we get all nasty and fight against each other, Jordan, how you doing today, my friend?
David, I'm doing great, and I'm just going to say right now to pop us off, King Kong ain't got shit on me. Woo! We've got a classic today, everybody. We've got Training Day, the Denzel classic, and I'm fired up. Dave, I'm doing good, man. I'm excited about today's episode, and I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to compete. All right, I'm up 2-1. My reiteration, my reboot of Coach Carter got the dub last time, and I'm ready. I'm bringing the heat today.
I'm excited for the heat. That King Kong came from your gut. That was an internal, gritty King Kong right there. Denzel would have been proud of that. But before we do exactly what you just said, why don't you, Jordan, introduce our esteemed guest judge today?
Yes. So our guest judge is one of my best friends from Memphis. From my time in Memphis, Tennessee, I should say. Charles is now living in the one and only Columbus, Ohio. OHIO. Charles, how you doing, my dog? Yes, sir.
Doing all right, man. Excited to be here. You know, I had to represent New York, even though the Knicks just lost yesterday. You guys might not know that, but just want to represent. So you're.
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate having you, man. Thanks for hopping on with us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Dave, let's hop right into it, man. Dave, why don't you get us started with your elevator pitch for your reboot of the one and only Training Day?
Yes, sir. Well, Mr. Rollins, big fancy movie executive, we go formalities here. Today, we are going to be talking about a prequel, because Training Day is an amazing movie that does a great job of not over-explaining, right? It lets a lot of the environmental storytelling do the work for it, which also leaves a lot of room for learning more about how we got to where we are. And specifically, we're going to frame this movie in the same format that Training Day was shot in. But we're going to be taking a look at Alonzo, who is Denzel's character, and his introduction to life in the LAPD, and specifically in the first movie, if you remember, he pays a visit to the three wise men, who are three of the most powerful people in LA and law enforcement. And we're going to take a look at how Denzel got to meet those guys and how the character that we come to meet in Training Day kind of gets molded by the systems that he's working within. Charles, today we're going to be talking about Three Wise Men.
Okay, I like it.
Okay.
So when I started working on this film, I decided that there were two questions that you can answer for our reboot. And the first question is, how did Alonzo become this way? And the second question is, what happens to Jake next? And of course, you and I, for the first time actually in reboot history, we both tackled the same question, and I also went with a prequel. And so my prequel is going to be titled The Shepherd. And here's my elevator pitch for The Shepherd. The Shepherd takes us into the life of Alonzo, a young hotshot cop in LA before everything went wrong. This story starts out as the beginning of Alonzo's illustrious career as a police officer, and ends with the genesis of the character that we see in the Denzel Washington classic, Training Day. Follow us as we take you on a journey to The Shepherd.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
I like the way you said it. I could hear the trailer right there.
There you go. That's right. I should get paid for that. I
gotta
get
start
paid to
doing
read for
voices in my
trailers.
shit. I gotta start in a world.
Yeah. Exactly. There's got to be a gig out there for me for that, right?
Hey, listen.
I was specifically told by my wife not to do voices on the podcast.
That's great.
Charles, my wife gave up on that a long time ago. It's like, the voices come with the territory now.
That's right.
But yeah, Jordan, I love it, dude. We're about to go. I think you're right. This is going to be the most direct kind of competition that we've had. I don't think we've
Yeah.
actually done the same type of reboot just
For
yet.
sure, we've always done something a little. Either I do a prequel, you do a sequel, or last time I did a spinoff, you did a prequel. We've always had a little something different. So this will be a true test.
A true test.
A true test.
Well, before I dive in and convince Charles that my idea is way better than yours, Charles, just off those elevator pitches, how are you feeling? Any initial thoughts?
I'm trying to figure out where Jordan's name comes from, but I have a feeling he's gonna like let me know in the second act, so I don't want to ask too many questions. But right now, I feel like feeling good.
All right,
Excellent.
good deal.
Excellent. Well, that's as good a headspace as we're going to get for our
That's right.
to go pitch to. So with that, let's dive into Three Wise Men. And Three Wise Men, if we think about where Training Day happens, the environment that takes place in, that movie came out in 2000, I believe, or 2001, right at the turn of the century. LA in a very transitional state. There's a lot of different things happening in the city. For the Three Wise Men, we're going to bump it back about 15 years. We're going to be kind of right in like 1983, 84, 85 time. So about 15 years younger. Alonzo at this stage is going to be in his like early 20s, 23, 24 years old. Unlike, or similar, I should say, to In Training Day, we're going to take a look at Alonzo not on his first day ever being a cop, but this is going to be his first day being introduced to the next level of being a cop that we kind of get exposed to in Training Day that he kind of owns in that first movie. So starting with that as the context, we think about LA in the 80s. We're talking about the crack epidemic. We're talking about mass police corruption. We're still several years out from Rodney King and that things really becoming publicly and nationally and internationally known. This is a LA Police Department that is racked by corruption. And Alonzo has already, by the start of our movie, we are well aware that he is a rising star within this environment. And we know that because of all of the personality traits that we've seen in Training Day. He's tenacious. He's got an ear to the streets. He knows how to work a CI. He knows how to work with drug dealers. But we know that up to this point, he hasn't really pushed anything too far, right? He's an ambitious young guy. He's been working his way up through the Rampart Department, Rampart Division, LAPD, which is kind of infamous for that, especially in that time frame. Really violent, really unethical, all these bad things. But in Alonzo's world, we see right from the beginning of the movie, all those traits are valued. Those are all big positives for him in this environment. And so much so that he gets moved early on in the movie. We find out he's been placed on the narcotics team. And when he's put onto the narcotics team, in the same way that Jake is introduced to Alonzo as his kind of mentor who's going to show him the ropes, we get to meet the one and the only Detective Jack Haynes. And Detective Jack Haynes is a cold motherfucker, all right? Detective Jack Haynes has got a gold tooth. He knows everything that's going on his streets, okay? He is dialed. He's plugged in. He's a cop that understands his community, but that doesn't mean that he's serving his community, if you understand what I'm saying with this kind of guy. So we start with, like we saw Jake and Alonzo being taken under Jack's wing. And the first thing they do is right off the bat, they go do a drug bust, right? First thing they're going to do, start the morning, boom. And right from this drug bust, we're going to find out how Jack Haynes gets down. And that means there's no knocking on the door. That means that when he gets to the door, he pulls out the battering ram, and instead of knocking the door down, he hands it to Alonzo. And Alonzo kind of gives him pause for a second. Jack doesn't say anything, gives him the look. Are you going to be a guy that can do this, or are you going to be somebody that's not going to be on my team? We find out right away what Alonzo's all about. Doesn't flinch for a second, cocks that thing back, pops the door open. The rest of the morning is going to unfold like this. We're going to see drug bust after drug bust happening where these guys are continuously infringing the rights of the people they're supposed to be protecting. And we're seeing that Jack is continuously encouraging Alonzo to keep pushing the envelope, keep doing things that maybe aren't going to be right, within in the rule book. This culminates with us getting to, midday, afternoon in this first day, where out of nowhere, Jack says, I got somewhere I got to take you right now, and it's not a drug bust. And he says, okay, it's middle of the afternoon. Where are we going? We end up in the darkest, seediest, weirdest looking poker room you've ever seen in your life. in the middle of the day. And who's in the poker room but our three wise men who we met in the first movie. Of course, these are the 15-year younger version of these cats. And when they walk in, from the minute that he walks in, Alonzo understands this is where the real power is. This is where the belly of the beast is operating. But he's still a kid. And so, like we saw Jake in the first movie, he takes his back seat and he lets Jack drive. Jack pulls up his chair to the table and says, "Gentlemen, I want you to introduce you to the future of the LAPD." And then looks over at Alonzo. End of Act 1.
Ooh, okay. Alonzo, the narcotics agent. I may drop some lines from this movie occasionally. A good narcotics agent knows and loves narcotics.
Smoke this shit. Yes.
I know you like.
Well, listen, this is Alonzo learning narcotics, right?
That's right.
It's one thing to use narcotics. It's another thing to know the ins and outs of how this side of the law, can manipulate or use the narcotics game, which is, again, the context of where this is happening is important in LA in the 80s.
Sure.
A whole world is existing that a lot of people don't know about yet, but Alonzo does. Alonzo's in on it right from the beginning, which is going to mold and kind of shape the way that he views the system. So,
Yep.
End of Act 1 right there.
All right, good deal. I'm going to get right into my Act 1. All right. So, Act 1 of The Shepherd. So, on Act 1 of The Shepherd, Alonzo is a young cop on the LAPD hoping to one day make detective. His father, Antoine, is the police chief, a.k.a. Big Chief. Now, Alonzo is a 24-year-old cop on the LAPD, and his wife, Eva, is 6 months pregnant. One day, Alonzo's out on patrol when he sees his car speeding and he attempts to pull the vehicle over. When the vehicle realizes that a cop's behind him, the vehicle flees and a chase scene ensues throughout LA. After the long chase scene, Alonzo eventually tracks the car down and he immediately checks the vehicle and finds several pounds of that cocaina in the back seat. Now, the man in the car warns him that if he arrests him, Alonzo will one day regret it. Alonzo, of course, ignores him and makes the arrest. When Alonzo returns to the police station, he's greeted by a huge celebration by the police force. This kind of feels like a moment in Alonzo's career. It feels like confirmation of what everyone already believes, that one day Alonzo is going to take over for his dad as the chief of police at the LAPD. Alonzo goes home that night and makes sweet love to his sweet wife, Eva, and promises her that he is going to accomplish all of his dreams and give her and their family everything that they want. Later that night, we find Alonzo asleep on the couch with his wife asleep alone in the bedroom. Suddenly, there's a raid at the house, and 6 masked men break in, restrain Alonzo, and kill his wife while she's asleep in the bedroom.
Damn.
On their way out, one of them says to Alonzo, "Next time, don't mess with the shepherd." The men leave Alonzo at home devastated with his pregnant wife dead in their bedroom. End Act 1.
Ooh, damn.
Damn. All right. I went slow burn, and you did not go slow burn. You went right to the freaking.
We're going right into it. We're killing Alonzo's wife right in Act 1.
Damn.
I mean,
I love it.
I feel like someone dies in every episode of the show.
I mean, this is training day, so some people got to die.
Some people got to die.
Some people got to die.
That's why we started this thing, Charles, just so we could, make people up to kill them.
Exactly.
That's our whole deal. But Charles, now that you've heard Act 1, we like to take a little pause here. Initial thoughts, questions. How we feeling so far?
So I'm feeling like, parts of it sounds like, man, because you guys are both doing the same thing, right? A prequel. I'm like hoping that I don't turn it into one big movie in my head, right? It's like in my head I'm hearing he went to the wise men and then he was trying to become the chief of police like his dad, and I'm like, oh no, that's two different thoughts. David, in yours, is Alonzo a family man at all yet? Is he
Good
already?
question. In my story, he's not. In my story, he's like a 23-year-old, 24-year-old whose focus entirely is on the job, and not just the job, but how to advance, right? How to like move himself up in the job. So there's no Eva yet in my story. There's no Eva Mendes from the first movie. One of the best.
That was confusing.
Way to pick that up, Dave. I literally
I
just
got you. I see you working over there. I see you working. I can do a hat tip, even though I'm competing against you. Charles, he's very career focused in my story. That said, he's a bit of a hound, I think, and everything the same attitude that he's applying to how he's going to get after it on the streets, I think is kind of how he's viewing his romantic life at the beginning of my movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then for you, Jordan, I'm assuming this is about to be his first kid, right? But
yes.
Yes.
So part of what I'm trying to paint is in the first movie, I'm trying to explain some of the quirks that we see with Alonzo in Training Day, right? So like there's the scene where he's talking to Jake and he's saying, he's egging him on to see how he reacts when he says stuff about his wife, right? He's, do you screw her face to face and all this stuff? And Jake's like, all right, man, like let's lay off my wife. And then he kind of gives him some game, and he's like, look, like you can't show that love. The original movie is so interesting because there's so many moments, at least in the first like hour of the movie, where he kind of like, the first time you see it, you're like, is he good or is he bad, right? Like he's kind of being a dick, but he's also kind of giving him some game. And so I'm trying to like give some context to that part of it where, maybe there was some real love in his life and he lost that love, and that's why he, gives Jake that game.
I like that. I like that. That scene is, well, he's like, because I don't miss, or whatever he says.
Right. Yeah, he says like, I'll hook your old girl up, like I don't miss. He's talking about his wife. You know what I mean? It's like, Jesus, man. Like,
oh man, it's crazy.
So, and I think that's my Jordan. I love that, and Charles, for context on mine too. My version of trying to get across how Alonzo ends up this way is seeing that influence from Jack, right? That mentor that he has no other option really to look up to and say, okay, this is the way this guy does it. Now I'm going to do that my way, which I think would manifest into like that conversation with Jake down the road, like for sure. Same type of like seed planting ideas there.
Yeah, for sure.
I like it. This
All
is good. I can't believe so much has happened in the first act.
Now that we're all lathered up, now that we got our first
now
act,
that some people have been killed, like let's roll.
Yeah, we got a dead wife on our hands, everything's flying. So with that, let's kick it back over to the three wise men here as we get into Act 2. So to remind you, Charles, we're in a dingy poker room in an afternoon in 1984 in Los Angeles, and Alonzo's just been introduced to the three wise men as the future of the LAPD. But we see right away that the three wise men, even though they're not at the top of their departments just yet, right? They're working their way up too, in the same way that Alonzo is. They're not sure yet. They're like, who is this guy? We don't know this guy. Jack, we know you. We know that we can control you. We know what you're about. We're not really sure about this guy yet. All right, we'll see how it goes. So Jack and Alonzo leave this meeting, and the first thing that they are going to go do next is Jack says, hey, I got a CI, I got a confidential informant. I got a snitch that says he has something for me. Let's go check it out. So they go talk to this CI. And as they're going over there, Jack is already starting to plant more of these seeds to Alonzo that my time's almost up here, right? This is, you're going to be the one to take up the mantle and do this for yourself in the right way. And hopefully help some people, because it's important to also note with the context, Jack is from a different era of LA policing, and an era where there was a little bit more emphasis, I think, placed on community relations, a little bit more emphasis placed on, hey, people from this community are going to be a part of this to help make sure that this all feels like something that, we're all in together. Alonzo is representative of this kind of change, and Jack can see that. And so I think he's, like, to use Jordan's language, he's trying to give him some game wherever he can to say, hey, this is the right way to do it. This is the wrong way to do it. So as he's talking about that on the way to the CI, they meet the guy, and he says, hey, there's this big drug move is happening. This big deal is going to be going down not too far from here. It's happening today. If you guys want to make it happen, you got to get over there right now and go do it. So I say, okay. Jack says, all right, let's go do it. And as they're getting ready to go see what's going on, Alonzo says, hold on. Why don't we rip this? Why don't we go bust this thing? Let's go make the scene looks like what it needs to look like, and let's take this cash home for ourselves. And even Jack at first is kind of like, that's pretty bold, right? First day on the job, that feels like maybe it's a little bit too much. But there's something about that, like, that Alonzo, swag that gets him over the line. He says, all right, let's go do it. So they go to this drug meet, big warehouse, guns drawn, they bust it down. But instead of arresting guys, they shoot everybody in the warehouse. Alonzo just pops in and starts busting. More dead people, Charles, coming your way. Bang, 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 bang. So everybody in the warehouse has been taken care of. Big duffel bag of cash. They walk out the door. And as they do, we have a moment where Jack starts to realize who he's dealing with, and that maybe the game he's giving him is not in the same league as to the guy that he's talking to, and that he might have created a monster, might be helping to create somebody that's going to not do it the way that he's been doing it, but do it his way. And Alonzo, as he walks out of this warehouse, can feel that shift too. And he can feel himself moving into a role that is more meaningful than just the guy on his first day in the narcotics unit. So as we get out, we realize that Alonzo is going to make another big decision, which is he's going to take half of this cut that they just took, and he's going to bring it right to the three wise men without them asking him to. So he's going to go right to them. He says, Jack, I got to go do something. I'll meet you back here in an hour. Jack says, fuck that. You're my partner. I'm going to be with you. So Jack rolls with him over to the three wise men, and Alonzo gives them this cash, sight unseen. Hey, I got a feeling that you guys might be the types of people that I should be including on a score like this. And the three wise men, that's the moment where they say, this is the future of the LAPD potentially. This is somebody that we can work with. This guy has the right instincts, right? That's how they say it. Hey, that's vision, right? That's you, really grinding for it and understanding where your bread is buttered. So that goes well. Jack and Alonzo walk out of the room. Alonzo is flying high, feeling like he just made a really good in with some important people. And Jack says, hold on for a second, because as I want you to understand something. I brought you to introduce you to these guys because I think that you can develop into a guy. But when you're in these circles, there's no ladder to climb. This isn't climbing the ladder. This is a circle up here when you're working with these guys. And when you're in a circle, there's no getting out of that circle once you're in it. The only way out of that circle is down through the middle of it. And Alonzo hears him, but he doesn't really hear him, right? He's a 24-year-old. He just had a big win for himself that he kind of masterminded. So he listens to Jack, but doesn't really hear it, right? Doesn't really hear what he's saying. So Alonzo then says, you know what? I think we're going to be all right. I think we're going to keep moving. I think we're going to keep doing it the way that we need to. And Jack has that realization saying, all right, I've created this now. Even in one day, I can see that I can't really get my arms around this guy. Where is this really going to go? And we cut from there to the evening, where it's a couple hours later. They're at a diner. They're having some late dinner. They're having a coffee after this insane day. They've done drug busts. He's met the three wise men. It's been a full day. And they're in this diner. And then the payphone rings in the diner, right? We're in the 80s. There's no cell phones. Nobody should know where Alonzo is. Payphone in this random diner rings. Waitress walks up to the table, looks at Alonzo, and says, there's a call for you. Who's on the other line? The three wise men. They say, Alonzo, we need you to come back to the poker room right now. We got something to discuss with you. End of Act 2.
Ooh, it's getting spicy.
It is.
It's getting spicy in LA in the 80s.
Oh man,
Alonzo's starting to turn here.
The gears are moving. The gears are moving.
It's about to go down.
Voices, we love it.
All right, I love it. All right, I'm gonna hop right into my Act 2. That work?
Get it?
All right, so just a refresher. Alonzo's wife has been murdered, and these guys have told him, do not mess with the shepherd. All right, so Act 2 begins with Eva's funeral. As the funeral ends, we see Alonzo and Antoine sitting together as Alonzo stares at the casket with rage in his eyes. His dad finally leans over to him and says to him, they are going to find the people that killed his wife, and he's going to bring them to justice. And he walks away quietly to leave Alonzo to sit there in his misery. The next day, Alonzo shows up to the police station to give his official statement on the incident and what happened that night. But Alonzo's a little vague about what happened, and he actually claims that he doesn't remember a whole lot. And most importantly, he does not mention that these men said to him, "Don't ever mess with the shepherd." Now, Antoine, his dad, can tell that his son is hiding something, but he doesn't mention it to the other cops in the room because he doesn't want to blow his cover. However, he does force Alonzo to take a paid leave of absence in order to kind of get his mind right so he can be ready to come back to work when the time is right. But, Alonzo's still grieving. So Alonzo leaves the station and goes straight to somebody's house. Now, when he gets there, there's a large, muscular male figure at the door that lets him in. This man is Alonzo's friend from back in the day, Dion. Now, Alonzo and Dion used to be boys back in the day, and they kind of used to run the streets a little bit before Alonzo straightened up. Now that Alonzo's a cop, he's kind of lost touch with Dion. He's kind of had to leave him alone. But Dion still lives his life in the streets. Alonzo proceeds to ask Dion questions about the shepherd. Dion warns Alonzo, "Look, man, the shepherd isn't somebody to play with. All he really knows about the shepherd is his motto, which is to protect the sheep, you must kill the wolf." And that's why people call him the shepherd. He views his customers as the sheep, and anyone that tries to stop him from getting his customers what they want are wolves. And that's why Alonzo's family was killed. He wanted to send a message to the LAPD that the shepherd is not to be messed with. So Alonzo takes that and he goes home and he stews in his misery a little bit more, and he decides to call Dion. And he tells Dion that he's made up his mind. He's going to go after the shepherd and kill him. And if Dion is in, he can use his help. Dion agrees. Alonzo's been his boy his whole life. He's killed his wife and his unborn child. And the two agree to meet the next morning to begin their mission to kill the shepherd. End of Act 2.
Ooh, man.
Schemes.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
I got a few questions.
Let's hear them.
Yeah.
All right. Is Jack for David?
Yeah.
Is Jack really wanting to do good for the community, but he also is down to take a little bit on the side?
Yes, I think that he probably, on his good days, Charles, I think that's what his motivations are, and deep down, I think that's what he really cares about. But he also often lets his position of authority and power, I think, go too far and let his demons get the best of him. So we see things like him, those drug busts from earlier in the movie are kind of showing that he doesn't really have that strict of a moral compass. I think maybe he tells himself more that at the end of the day, I'm really doing this for the community, but most of his actions don't really show that, right? I think if you were to just look at him as a viewer of the movie, you'd be like, that's a corrupt cop, or that's somebody that's not doing things the right way. But he tells himself the story that it's all being done for the greater good. Again, kind of like, even though in Training Day, obviously, Alonzo has this, bounty on his head from the Russians. In the way that he interacts with Snoop Dogg or the other CIs that he meets throughout the movie, you get the impression that he's using people, but he thinks that he's making everything safer, right? Because at least I'm controlling it. At least I have my hands on it. And if it wasn't me, it'd be somebody worse, right? It'd be some other bad guy. So at least I got it. I think he gets a lot of that from Jack. I think that's where his mindset is.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What does Jack look like? What is his ethnicity? We know he's got a gold tooth. Is Jack a white guy? Is he a black guy? What do we got with Jack?
I envision Jack being a black guy.
Okay.
Someone who, again, I think that's part of what plays into this mindset is I think he's from LA. I think he's from a black neighborhood in LA. I think he's grown up in this environment. And now that he's on the other side of it, I think part of him is saying, yeah, but really, I really want this to be for the benefit of my community. But everything that's placed in front of him, working with the wise men, the structure, the authority systems, make it really easy for him to not do that, right? And kind of, like I said, like let his inner demons get the best of him.
So as you've been reading, what's the show with the guys that are in the motorcycle gang, the white dudes that are in the
Sons of
motorcycle?
Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy. Man.
I've been picturing Jack as the big white dude with the big head.
Opie?
Sure.
Opie's the dude with the long hair. I didn't really watch it. Who's the big dude with the giant head?
I've never actually watched Sons of Anarchy.
I haven't either. I just know he's this big white dude he's in other stuff. People that are listening to this will know who I'm talking about. That's who I'm picturing Jack to be.
The guy who plays Hellboy.
Yeah. Again, sure. I haven't really seen it, but yeah.
Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman is the actor.
Yeah.
Who's a legendary actor. I've seen a couple episodes of Son of Anarchy, but I've never, really gotten in there. And Jordan, I think that's not an unfair reading of it. I think based on what I've been talking about, but I unlike Alonzo and Jake, who do have that different dichotomy of being a white guy and a black guy.
Yeah,
I think part of Alonzo being feeling immediately like he feels comfortable is because he relates to his mentor in a direct way, that they both grew up in kind of the same environment. That's how I had it in my head. But I love that you went in a whole different way with it. That's fun.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that you went there, because I was going to ask you, like, what's the race of the shepherd? Because all we know is that he got pulled over. Well, is he the guy that got pulled over, or does that guy work for the shepherd?
That guy. So the guy that got pulled over is one of the shepherd's like dope runners, and that's why he warns him, like, hey, like if you let me go, you'll be all right, but if you arrest me, it's going to be bad for you. So we have not revealed the race of the shepherd yet. In Act 3, so in my head, he kind of looks like Roger from Training Day. He's like this kind of older white dude, but I hadn't thought about it much either, to be honest with you. But I think as I was kind of writing it out, I was picturing Roger from the first movie as kind of like a placeholder for the shepherd.
All right, and then have we met the shepherd yet, or were those just his goons who came to the house?
Those were his goons that came to the house. So we're gonna meet the shepherd. We're gonna meet the shepherd in Act 3.
Okay. And then one more question for David. You said they went to a diner. Now, is that the same diner that Alonzo takes Jake?
Yes. I'm so glad. Yes, because I was going to mention that at the top of Act 3, but that's exactly right. and that's kind of with the format that I'm thinking of. Again, calling back to that first movie, the visual storytelling elements. I think there's a lot of places where we can see these things that become part of Alonzo's shtick in the first movie. We're seeing where those things came from a little bit, or seeing why maybe he has connections to certain places. And that diner in LA is actually no longer open, but that's like an iconic landmark in LA when they go for that great scene when we meet Alonzo in Training Day. So yes, would be the same diner as we see in the next movie.
Speaking of that diner, can I ask Dave one more question before we keep rolling?
Please.
Does she have a liquor license?
We had to squeeze that in. Get that one in there.
That's my last one. That's my last line.
No, I keep it coming. I love it. All right. Well, Charles, any other questions before we go final stretch here for our movies?
One last one. I don't want to take too much time, but have either of you guys thought of like in prequels where you'll have a cameo of a character in like the future one, but like they're not a main person. They'll just be like, oh, my name is so-and-so. And then people who've seen the first movie are like, oh, that's the guy. They don't even realize they're going to re-meet 15 years from now. That kind of stuff.
So I didn't do that, Charles. The one idea that I played with is making like in a totally different version of this. I played with like making Snoop Dogg's character from Training Day like one of the original bad guys in this movie, but I went a different direction with it. But no, I didn't.
He's walking.
Yeah, I kind of thought about making part of the movie like we find out why Snoop Dogg's in the wheelchair, because at one point Denzel says to Jake like, how do you think he got in that wheelchair? I put him there. So I thought about kind of doing that, but I ended up going in a different direction.
All right.
And I think my version of that, Charles, would be like the three wise men themselves, right? Because we really only see them. We only see them in one scene, really, in Training Day, right? It's really quick. And part of why that movie's so incredible is like you get it right away, right? When you watch that scene, you're like, these guys call the shots. These are the dudes, right? These are the guys who are making it happen. So I want to limit how much screen time they have in my movie as well, so that we can get a little bit. I love what you just said there, because that's so fun, right? When you get to see an origin story or a prequel where it's like, oh shit, I know that guy, right? Like, cool, now I'm seeing him, beforehand, which I think is like, I want that to be clear with the three wise men, but also not make them the main protagonists of the movie, or the main characters of the movie. They're just there, which, jumping ahead here in a second, Act 3, is also reflective of the power structure itself, right? It's like the things that inhibit Alonzo and everyone are often not the first thing you see or the people that you meet. It's these intricacies, that make it so fucked up but also compelling. So yeah. I think that's part of it as well.
I love that. All right.
Yeah.
That's it for
me.
Let's
get into Act 3. Let's hear it, Dave.
I'll ride compelling into my third act here and hope it carries over. So we just left. We just got in the diner. Alonzo just got the call. He looks at Jack, and it's clear that Jack has not been invited to this meeting. This is an Alonzo meeting that he's going to go to these guys who he just met and just gave $100,000 to. So he goes back to the poker room. They're back in there just like they were several hours ago in the afternoon. Now we're at nighttime. And they say, Alonzo, what you did in bringing us this money, opened our eyes a little bit to some of the potential here, and we have some work that needs to get done. And he says, okay, I'm a hard worker. I can do something for you. And they say, great. We need you to take out the assistant DA in Los Angeles. Boom. And Alonzo's like, what the fuck? Like that. I'm a narcotics guy. I just did a drug bust. I did just kill a bunch of people, but those guys were scumbags. Those were drug dealers. Like, this is a whole different operation. This is a government official. This is a real deep state shit going on right here. And so Alonzo doesn't backpedal because he doesn't want to show weakness to these guys. But he tries to pivot it, hey, is there another way? Can we set this guy up in a different way? Does he have to go? And the three wise men make it very clear that if you want to be in the circle, you got to be in the circle. And there's only one way to go, which is deeper into the circle. Because if you don't go deeper into the circle, you're going to go down. And the way you're going to go down is we're going to take this $100,000 bribe that you just gave to 3 police officers, and we're going to make that nice and public, and we're going to end your career and your life before it even gets started. So Alonzo realizes the full scope of his situation and understands that the future is bright for him, and he's about to go take over the LAPD. He's about to go put Snoop Dogg in the wheelchair. He's about to go make himself a ton of money. But ultimately, he doesn't get to call the shots. And ultimately, he has to work within this system that is always going to control him. And I think that moment where we see these 3 wise men make that as clear as day for him is one of the climactic moments of the movie, where he is riding so high from this exciting day, the future is bright, and then this crashing reality that no matter how good he is, no matter how many people he shakes down, no matter how many doors he busts in with that battering ram, these are the folks that he's going to have to answer to. And for as boisterous and as ambitious as he is, there's really no getting around that. So we see Alonzo leave. He agrees that he's going to do what needs to be done. And we don't see that happen in our movie. It's understood that that's going to happen and that Alonzo is in for that to happen. So before any of that takes place, Alonzo leaves this bar. He's a little bit shook. So he decides he's going to roll back to the precinct and get a cup of coffee and, maybe check in, maybe end his day. It's been a long day. Gets to the precinct and he sees a cop walk in. And this is a cop who is on his first day on the force. This is his very first day. Uniform is all shiny. He's like wearing everything too tight, and Alonzo has this moment of realizing that 24 hours ago, he wasn't that different from that guy. And now what's happened over the course of this day, the decisions that he's made, he can never be that guy ever again. He's in the circle now, for better or worse. Which then leads us to our final kind of sequence of the movie, which is Alonzo returning to his apartment in the jungle, which is a real place in LA where the climax of the first training day takes place. Big cul-de-sac. Goes back to his apartment, and we see him in his room practicing. We see him putting on his watch. We see him smiling and laughing into the mirror. We see him, maybe even one of the lines that Jordan has already said on our episode today. We see him building the character that becomes Alonzo, because he realizes that character is the only thing standing between him and the pit of the circle that he can fall into. Because if he doesn't maintain this type of energy, this type of character, the beast is going to eat him. And the minute that he stops doing that, he's done. And I think that motivation gets us to the Alonzo that we meet in Training Day 15 years after having that realization, where all that good work that he's done, we see in Training Day over and over again, including at this meeting with the three wise men. He's a stallion that can't run. He wants to be able to do it a certain way, and he can't, because the structure that he's tied to will always win, even when he's winning. And I like the idea of this movie not ending on a bang, not ending with a big crazy shootout, but this more reflective and internal realization that I need to become this if I'm going to survive for Alonzo, which then informs all the crazy shit we see happen in Training Day. So we see, as a final image, the next day beginning, Alonzo walking out of his door, watch on, big cross on. The Alonzo that we know is going to step out of that door and go kick off the things that are going to get us to Training Day.
I like it. I like it. The genesis of Alonzo.
Genesis of Alonzo via the three wise men, who are ultimately the guys who are on top.
I like it. All right. I'm gonna hop right into mine. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Act 3 is gonna begin with Alonzo and Dion ripping through LA trying to find the shepherd. All right. So they finally get to one of Dion's friends, a man named Walter. Now, Walter is a retired drug dealer, but still keeps his ears to the street. Walter warns the two guys, look, the shepherd is not who you guys want to deal with. Even Walter, who is a badass himself, has not dared to mess with the shepherd. But Alonzo pleads to Walter that he needs some information on the shepherd, and he even reaches into his wallet and shows him a picture of him and Eva on their wedding day, and gives this beautiful montage about what was taken from him the day the shepherd sent those men to his house. So Walter cracks a little bit and gives Alonzo and Dion a name. And the name that he gives them is the name of a guy named D'Angelo. And D'Angelo works for the shepherd as one of his hitmen, right? Think Slim Charles from The Wire.
Yeah. Love Slim Charles.
That's
One
right.
of the best characters of all time in any medium.
That's right. So D'Angelo hangs out at this bar close by, and he's this tall, light-skinned man with long braids. So Alonzo and Dion take off, and they head to this bar. And when they get to the bar, there's only two people there, the bartender and the man that Walter described, D'Angelo. So Alonzo, without thinking, attacks, and a fight breaks out between the bartender, D'Angelo, and Dion and Alonzo. Alonzo drops his gun on the ground. There's a scurry for the weapon, and Alonzo picks up the gun, fires at D'Angelo, but accidentally hits the bartender, and the bartender drops dead. Dion quickly tackles D'Angelo before he can get away, and Alonzo is now sitting there in shock. He's just killed the wrong man, maybe even a man that was innocent and had nothing to do with what was going on. Dion holds the gun to D'Angelo's head and demands that he tells them where they can find the shepherd. And D'Angelo eventually cracks and gives them the address to where the shepherd lives, and Dion immediately shoots and kills D'Angelo. So Alonzo's a little shooken up, right? Even though Alonzo's a big-time cop, this is a little bit beyond what he's used to. But Dion tells him, look, man, we've come too far now. We've got to keep going. So they hide the bodies behind the bar, and they head towards the shepherd's house. Now, when they arrive at the shepherd's house, Alonzo gets a call from his dad, Antoine, but Alonzo ignores. He's gone too far. He doesn't want to get his dad involved, so he ignores his dad's call. So they get to the shepherd's house and they burst through the door, and the shepherd's sitting there in the living room, almost as if he's been waiting for them. So Dion keeps watch by the door, and the tense conversation between Alonzo and the shepherd that we've been kind of waiting for eventually happens, right? Now, Alonzo sits the shepherd down, gets him on his knees, and tells him that he's about to pull the trigger and end his life, when all of a sudden, the door bursts open and there's gunshots coming through the door. Dion is instantly killed, and Alonzo turns and he sees his father standing at the door. His father has been tracking Alonzo and Dion all day. He even knows about the two men that have been killed at the bar, and he's actually taken care of that and hid the bodies. He tells Alonzo that the police don't know anything about what he's done, and he must cooperate with them if he wants to stay out of prison. His dad tells him that they have to kill the shepherd and make it seem like they were investigating a crime and that the shepherd shot them first. What Alonzo doesn't know is that Alonzo's dad never turned in the paperwork to put him on leave because he knew that his son may try and do something irrational. So now they can report that they were on official police business when this happened. Now Alonzo at first refuses. He's protected the shield his entire time as a cop, and he's prepared to go to jail for what he's done. He's kind of wrapped his mind around like, hey, I've committed a crime. This is what I'm going to do. And his father hits him with the famous line from Training Day, do you want to go to jail or do you want to go home? And Alonzo stops and thinks for a second, and he realizes the choice that he has to make. And he turns and he shoots the shepherd dead in the head, leaving him dead on the ground. His father then hands him a smaller weapon, a stinger, as they refer to in Training Day, and he instructs his son to shoot him in his bulletproof vest. And then he will walk him through what he needs to say to the police when they arrive. The movie ends with Alonzo walking out of the shepherd's house with a slight grin on his face as he is officially turned into the cop that we see in Training Day. End of Act 3.
Oh, man, the twist.
Let me quarterback this thing. Fantastic.
Wow. Did not see that coming.
Very nice. Very nice.
Whew, so many questions, man. I mean, not really many questions, but I have a few.
Yeah, hit us.
Please.
All right, so I was about to ask, where's Dion in Training Day, but then you killed him off. So I got to scratch that question out.
He's gone. Dion has been killed by Antoine.
Jordan, a.k.a. the Grim Reaper, strikes again.
I killed 4 people in this movie.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And his 2 closest people, his wife, well, I mean, depending on who you ask, his wife, his kid, and then also his best friend. So 3 of his closest people, man.
Yep. We killed the bartender. We killed D'Angelo. We killed the shepherd. A lot of death. And
he shoots his dad? Yeah.
Yeah. This movie's rated R for sure.
I'm honestly already just so happy right now because you guys mentioned The Wire, and like that's my favorite show ever of all time. So okay, and then so question is, Antoine, like, do we know, like, is he evil or is he just like looking out for his son? Like, what's his deal? Like, is he like in league with the shepherd? Like, what the fuck?
No, so my original idea, Charles, was to make his dad the shepherd and have him find his dad at this house. But I decided that might be too far of a stretch. No, the idea is that his dad is not a bad cop, but his dad is willing to do whatever he has to do to protect his son, right? So he knew in Act 2 when he told his story to the cops that he was leaving something out. He didn't know exactly what was being left out, but he knew something was being left out, and he knew that Alonzo was probably going to act irrationally. And so he did the fake leave thing, and he basically tracked his son the next couple of days to see what he was going to do because he had a feeling that he was going to go after this guy. So, no, the idea isn't that his dad is a bad cop. The idea is that his dad is a good cop looking out for his son and has decided to do what he had to do to protect him.
And he killed Dion, right? So, like, he's basically saying, like, all right, we're going to act like Dion works for the shepherd and, like, keep it hush hush. Even
we're gonna come up with the story to Dion is a casualty of war in this, right? Like, why? Yeah. So Dion is a street guy, so now they can spin it as in, hey, Dion actually was one of the shepherd's guys. We came in here to investigate the shepherd, and shots were fired.
Yeah. Oh man, I did not see that twist coming. I was like, who's coming through the door?
Hey, my pen is immaculate, dog.
Yeah, big chief, man.
That's right. That's right.
So, David, I mean, I have a question. It might get a little deep here. I mean, we all know that the wise men were a bunch of white guys from the movie, and is this kind of like analogous to like, like the black struggle? Because it's like he's doing all these things, and he's just like feeling like he's about to be at the pinnacle, and then like right at the top, he's like, nah, man, there's like the man, and the man is always over top of your head. You know what I mean? So you leave that with that feeling.
You got
like,
it.
Man, we can't get anything right. Like we can't, no matter what we do, we're gonna struggle. Even in like the criminal world, right? I think I'm trying to remember what the quote is. Oh, it was Kanye when he said, "And a white man get paid off of all of that." You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like
that's it.
Even though he's doing these crimes, it's like they're still like, oh man, that hits me.
Yes, I thank you. That's exactly the idea, right? And which is true of any structure, right? Especially in our country, which is built on inherently racist and derogatory things, so that, to your point, whether you play within the system or you try and do it your own way, that system is so all encompassing and it's so rigged, right, in a certain way where even when you win, the goalposts get moved, right? Even when you go out of your way to go deliver the 100K to these cats, they say, oh, great, we'll take that and use that as leverage against you because now we get to control you, And I think that's part of what makes Training Day such a great movie too, right? Is like you see how both black and white police officers are so easily corrupted by that opportunity to say, oh, okay, here's a path forward. But it's not really a path forward because, to your point, those guys are still going to be up top, right? It's all that shit still flowing up to the man, right? To the white man, really, in this case. And it's one of the things that I think when people look at, this is a really deep, topic that deserves its own podcast, but it's like when you look at stuff like police brutality, you look at things like policing in America, it's often focused on incidents or things that happen, or it's like, there was a shooting, there was this horrible thing that happened, and that larger thing gets lost in it because it's sensational and it's tragic and it's horrible, and that immediacy of that tragedy drowns out this like arguably more important or more impactful larger thing, and that's part of why Alonzo's such a great character, right? I think you could totally read that first Training Day in that same lens that you just did, right? Of like his story being reflective of like the black struggle in America, or how difficult it is for a black man specifically in LA to make waves in a way that is truly independent or truly organic to him or her. So yeah, yes, without getting into the whole sociological discussion here on a high level, yeah, Charles, that's kind of the idea, and that's why I liked the idea of this movie not ending with a shootout or not ending with a big sensationalized thing. It's that sobering reality, right, that's hitting him. That's like, shit, what do I do? What is the way out of this? Oh, I guess it's just deeper in. I guess I just got to commit. I guess I got to just, and it's like
he's trapped.
He's trapped. And those little concessions end up being the things that really, restrain him, from being a full person. So,
and in the original movie, and in the original movie, there are times where he really believes the stuff he's saying to Jake, right? Like, he's really believing, like, man, this is how it is. Like, this is how you have to survive. Like, and obviously some of it is him trying to manipulate Jake. But there are also parts, and again, like I said earlier, the first hour of the movie, if you're watching it for the first time, you're kind of still struggling with, what's his deal here? Like, is he crazy? Is he actually super, super smart and just like understands this game of crime and the streets and all these different dynamics of these different people that he has to deal with every day? Does he actually just really understand that really, really well? And it's really well done. I watched this movie twice getting ready for this podcast, and the second time was just because I like watching it.
It's so good.
I mean,
it's just a great movie.
That's also, to that point, Jordan, the last thing for me is, and Charles, going back to what you were just saying, like, that's part of also why I want the three wise men in my movie to only exist in this poker room, right? They're not in the streets. They don't understand,
of course,
the community that they've been tasked with protecting, or like in theory, looking out for. they don't give a fuck, right? It's not, that's not their business. Their business is advancing, making money, and retaining control, and that's all they care about. And that's what systems at their worst, when they're left unchecked, or things that are in the darkness and we don't have accountability on things, that's where people go. That's how it happens. And especially in our country, and especially in the city that I'm from, there's decades, hundreds of years of evidence of that, playing out that way. And so it's I think a fine line to strike of making a movie that doesn't feel like a class, educating people on this. That's something that's entertaining and fun to watch, but it also contains all these elements that are really important, and hopefully make somebody want to come back, like Jordan did, to go watch a movie twice just because it's fun to watch and interesting.
And all of that stuff speaks to kind of why there were some people who were upset that this was the first Oscar that Denzel got as the lead actor, right? Like, he had gotten glory as best supporting actor, but this was his first Oscar as the lead, and he's playing this corrupt character of this evil black man. And I remember when that happened, and there's people that were upset about it, man. My father being one of them, right? Like, I remember having conversations with him about, like, why couldn't he got it for, and I can't remember what movies preceded this movie that were
Malcolm
awesome.
X.
Yeah, Malcolm X, of course, right? I'm bad with the timeline of his filmography, but yeah, like, It's those are all great movies. I just can't remember which ones came first, but he was Denzel, right? He had so many great movies at that point. So
that's the point that I think Charles was making played out, right? Which is Hollywood mainstream media saying, "Oh okay, we can have a black Oscar winner, but he's gonna be a corrupt cop." He's gonna be an angry, crazy guy that half the country is gonna look at and be like, "Yeah, that fits my image of what a black person is." Like, yeah, totally. Like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so, Denzel is a thug. That works.
Yeah,
there's a not to bring lyrics again, but there's a lyric about, like, the fact that Denzel had to, like, didn't get it.
Why did Denzel have to be crooked before he took it?
Yeah, you see? Oh man, that's wild. But, like,
I just want to say, Charles, before we kick it to you for your final decision here as the big movie executive, we haven't set it up to this point. How fucking good is Denzel in that movie? That is
fucking good.
Just an unbelievable. He's just the best. He's truly a generational
cases
actor.
On all you.
You'll be playing basketball in Pelican Bay. With you.
And it's all these things that now have become like household name, right? It's like Denzel is like an American icon. He's this, giant of the industry. To see it happen, like when you're watching this movie, Jordan, again, like rewatching it for the 100th time, my God, you cannot help but just be sucked into his performance. It's so incredibly captivating.
The diner scene, like, I get goosebumps. Like, as soon as the diner scene's over and they start playing, I think it's still DRE, I'm fired up. I'm ready.
Masterclass.
That was one of my questions I forgot to ask. Was like, I mean, this is like what music are we gonna have in this movie in LA? You know what I'm saying?
That's a good question. If you're doing it now, you gotta have some K-Dot, right? Like some K-Dot, some Nip.
I'm going the other way for mine. We're going 80s hip hop in mine.
NWA?
Like just before, probably, like right around there, because NWA was like 87, I think, is straight out con 89. Yeah, it was like later 80s.
Sure. Yeah.
But that energy of hip hop and that energy of music from the 80s, I think, is where I would lean into for a soundtrack.
All right, I like it.
Yeah.
All right, Charles, I think it's time for you to give the ultimate judgment here.
Yep.
Don't keep in mind our friendship.
Jordan is so bullshit. Every time it's judgment time,
I feel like this is so like, just remember that I put you on the podcast.
Yeah. Just remember our friendship.
No, man. Oh man. So, question: Do I like say a little bit about how I feel about? Can I say a little bit how I feel about each before I say?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course.
All right. So let's see. Give me money, Mo. All right. So. All right. So, David, I really like just like all of the ways that your movie makes you think, right? And I'm really partial to those kinds of movies and TV shows where like you just like walk out of the theater and you're just like, you're still discussing it because you're like, I don't know exactly, but like it made me feel this way and all that. you know. So like I think that's cool, and I just like the whole what I said before about the white man keeping the black man down. I think that's dope. So that's cool. Jordan, I like the way yours has like a finality to it, like. But I also, I mean, I'm really like blown away by the twist. Like, I didn't see any of that coming. I was like, oh man, Dion's gonna be like working for the Shepherd, or like, I don't know, like the Shepherd's gonna be someone from the first movie. But I guess you guys already said that there weren't gonna be. But like, I just like didn't see. I should have known by the fact that his dad had like a name like Big Chief. Like, if you have like a name like that, I should have known that he was gonna come back. Like, you can't have Big Chief in the first scene and then never come back.
Yeah, you got to pop off at some point.
I think I'm Big Chief. Oh man. But and I like the way yours like starts with all this emotion, like losing the kid and the wife, and like for nothing, right? Because it's just like he's just doing his job. He's just being a good cop. That's right. And it's just like, fuck, man. Sometimes life just, you can do everything right, and the world's just gonna fuck with you, man. And so I really like that. And so I like both of these. I wish I could just like make them into one big movie, or maybe like a double prequel. Like it's like,
there you go.
Now we're talking.
Honestly, I feel like yours turns in like could be a series, right? Like straight up The Wire-esque, and like he's doing all this stuff, and like just how he's going through it, and just man. But all that being said, man, I gotta give this one to David. David really. Oh man.
Oh, you gotta make him think, Gordon. You gotta make him think out there. All right.
No, I'm dead ass. I came into this and I was like, man, it's gonna be a lot of pressure. I know Jordan's up, but I don't want to just give it to David because then they'll be tied. Like if Jordan wins it, Jordan wins it. I kept telling myself, Jordan wins it. Then as like I was like starting to fall in love with David's story, I'm like, oh man, people are gonna think I'm like trying to even it up. I'm really not. But like the way like, oh man, the way it had me going through it, I was like, I had to give it to my man David over here.
No, so, bravo, Dave, yours was great. I'm a big fan. Charles, I'm gonna burn all of my Memphis Tiger gear because I'm only a Memphis Tiger fan because of you.
Wow,
and
no,
I'm gonna burn all that tonight.
That was quick. That turned real quick.
I'm out on the Memphis Tigers.
But what if the Knicks beat the Pacers for you though?
Oh.
I don't care anymore. I just like no, honestly, I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't care. Honestly, I just want to see good basketball at this point. So.
Man,
well,
I don't.
Charles, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, and I will say, Jordan, I loved yours as well. Honestly, I really did.
Appreciate it.
And I was right there with you, Charles. That twist was phenomenal. That was a really cool ending to the movie. It definitely has more of a finale, final feeling. Charles, to your point, like that you wrap things up, I think, a little bit better. And yeah, I think like you were saying, Charles, when you, Jordan, when you introduced Big Chief, in screenwriting or storytelling, the concept of like Chekhov's gun. There was a very famous acting teacher. The idea is if you show a gun in Act 1, that gun needs to reappear at the end of the story, because otherwise you're just leaving the audience hanging. You're not giving them that kind of like that moment of catharsis, which you did, Jordan, and I love that. And I thought your story structure was really, really cool. But yeah, Charles, I'm really glad that you jumped right into where I was kind of going with this, as like a little bit more of a thinking man's piece, to kind of mull on. Like the best case scenario for me is exactly what you described. Folks are walking out of the theater talking about, what they just saw, talking about the bigger issues that the movie's kind of like highlighting on. So that's awesome. I appreciate it. And now we're all square.
We're squared up.
Babies.
We're squared up.
Just like that. 2-2.
So we got, I once had a coach that said a tie is like kissing your sister. So I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you next episode. We'll have to, we haven't picked a movie for the next one. Maybe in the comments, people can make some suggestions.
Yeah. Tell us what you'd like to see. Tell us what you'd like to see.
Tell us what you'd like to see.
And I can say, Charles, this will not be the last time we have you on as a guest judge. It was an absolute pleasure having you, man. It was amazing feedback and questions and everything. Yeah, man.
Come on back.
That was a good time. Also, you probably see me in the comments on Song of the Week, because I got a lot of thoughts, by the way. So
hit us up.
I'm gonna use my fake YouTube comment. I'm like my fake YouTube account.
We'll have you on as long as you subscribe with your fake YouTube account. You can say whatever you want to say.
Good answer, Jordan. Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get out of here. This has been an awesome time. I want to thank our co-host David as well, today's winner. I want to thank our guest Judge Charles, my guy. We appreciate having you. We want to thank all of the viewers and listeners for tuning in. This is the Reboot. Until next time, we're out of here. Peace.